Well, I've made about 4 attempts at something I thought would only interest me anyway, and it may be so. I've just found a letter from my mother's cousin, which was sent to me courtesy of a complete stranger researching the Godson family tree. The man was called Matt Godson, and my mother's maiden name was Godson. As I say, Matt Godson was my mother's cousin, and I was sent this letter by a woman called Celia Dodd. The man, Matt Godson, actually thought that my mother had married a man named Richard Oakley. And he does say they didn't exactly keep in close touch, and they couldn't have, because otherwise at some point, surely, someone might have mentioned that my father's real name was Desmond. Perhaps that's why they didn't keep in close touch, that my father didn't want that to happen. What does puzzle me is that he knew she had a son, that my mother had a son. He gets his name wrong, but he did know that she had a son. In his letter written in 1982, he mentions not having seen my mother for at least 25 years. So, at least since 1957 and possibly before that. 1956-7 was the year that I was supposed to be in hospital, an isolation hospital, with polio, and I was born in 1954. Now, Matt Godson believed my mother to be married, knew she had a son, and then says there may have been more children, or words to that effect. He didn't know. He does mention they kept in contact via Christmas cards, which I remember. I remember my mother sending Christmas cards to him and receiving Christmas cards from him. My memory is that my mother on her cards did not just sign off Romy, her nickname, but signed off with all of the family's names. I thought she did. Why then was he never aware that she had a daughter? Why was he only aware of the son? There was no valid reason to not mention the daughter. Surely on, let's say the Christmas card she sent in 1954, she might have said, oh, by the way, we have a new baby girl. It would have seemed like a sort of natural thing to do. As I say, the man thought she was married and knew she had a son. And they attended, my mother's cousin attended my great-aunt's funeral in 1974. I wasn't there, and I don't know why I wasn't there. I don't know if even my parents were there. But he met my cousins there, my then teenage cousins. Teenage as I was at the time, I was 19. He died in 1991, at which time I was 37. And he didn't know I existed. No one ever mentioned the fact to him, although they saw him in person and exchanged Christmas cards yearly. And the approximate date that he thinks he may have last seen my mother was around about 1957. Of course, it could have been years before that, many years. As I say, this is about my 5th attempt, because I'm trying to keep emotion out of this. It does make me wonder all over again when and where and how I entered the family. To be kept secret. I can remember my aunts speaking in whispers about certain family members, including another of my mother's cousins, one on the Noyes side of her family, a woman named Ruby, who only died in 2000 and something, and she lived in a place called Hartley Whitney, which is not all that far from Southampton where I lived. It's a drive, an hour at the most, I would think. I'll go on the map again in a minute, but it isn't far. Never met her either. Well, I assumed, actually, that there were other reasons for that, namely that she knew Amelia Noyes, whom I have mentioned. Plus, the illegitimacy aspect, but that is not clearly the reason why Matt Godson didn't know I existed. Kind of wondering again about imported babies sent to good Germanic families, twins parted at birth, all kinds of things. I did mention that aspect in another recent video, which has garnered absolutely no interest whatsoever, although I was trying to make a point. It was about a woman called Rosa Marie, and I was trying to make the point that perhaps twins had been separated at birth and one sent to a good Germanic family in Austria.